Good morning and welcome to The Knowing Show. I am your host, Christine Marie. Y'all, I reminded myself this morning that this show is such a privilege for all of us to get on to connect over the chat, primarily over here in YouTube. If you go to the Knowing Podcast, if you're joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Y'all, every single morning, this show, we go live at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. And our intent and our goal for this show is that we cultivate the human intelligence, we cultivate ourselves, that we step into the role of responsibility for ourselves, for the cultivation of our inner world, because our outer world is a reflection of that state. And we really honor this time. We honor the space in the chat here on YouTube and make sure that it is preserved and protected so that what is shared is meaningful, helpful, useful, rather than just having trolls come in. And for the most part, we have really meaningful conversations in the chat. So I welcome you to engage in the chat, to share what you're thinking, and I'll jump in and read comments every couple minutes or so. At the very beginning, though, for those of you who are new, we will read through a lesson, A Course in Miracles. We are reading through this entire year. Who knows? Maybe we will read it all over again next year. And we read through this lesson and then we discuss it together. So that's the format of our morning shows. We also will go live most afternoons on the weekdays. And that's usually where we will have a guest. For example, we have a guest this evening, which I'm so excited for. And y'all, we're growing together. That's really the goal. No one of us has the answers. And in fact, to think that we have the answers is to arrive at a destination. And then what's the point of continuing to learn and continuing to grow? And so really the forum and basis from which we're operating is the understanding and assumption that we need to be cultivated, that we have not yet fully arrived, and perhaps we never will. So it allows for us to be open and curious rather than assessing with judgment. Once judgment exists and we're looking at information or hearing information through that lens, or even reading comments through that lens, there is no way that we're going to be able to be open to receive something that could very well be what we need for the day, for the season of our lives. One last thing, yesterday and over the last couple of days, we've been talking about the power of our thoughts. And often, whatever we think, there's a couple different responses to those thoughts. If it's a quote unquote negative thought, every single thought has a life force to it. Either it is life-giving or life-depleting. So there is no neutral thought. And actually that very lesson was, I think, like lesson 16. So it was lesson 16. We're on lesson 134 today. So that is one of the foundational premises of our study together, is that concept. There is no neutral thought. So then when we have a thought that is life depleting, there are a couple different responses to it. This is really what we discussed yesterday. When we have a life depleting thought, we can take it, examine it, and say, to hell with you. I'm not going to engage with you. That is not who I want to be. That is not how I want to live my life. That thought does not align with my ideal. Or we can take it, consider it, and say, oh, I actually think that this thought needs to be healed, that there's some pain tied to this thought. And then it's like following the yellow brick road, tracing that thought all the way down to what belief system does this thought represent? And then what moment in time was that belief system really first born? Every single belief has a reason why. So if you were to simply just ask why and follow that yellow brick road, you'll find the belief system and you'll find the genesis moment of when that thought came into formation. And, otherwise, there's also there's many other things we can do with our thoughts, but really those two, this thought either needs to be healed or this thought needs to be thrown out to hell with you. And so with that in mind, I want to examine today's lesson, because yesterday's lesson was so potent in that regard, where, man, we have to take control of our minds, because the way that we think is the way that we then see the world. We change the way that people interact with us based on our thoughts. Were they kind to us? Were they generous to us? Well, if I'm going in with a preset mindset around how they're going to engage with me, that's more than likely how I will see the world. We have this filter, we have this lens through which we see the world. So I'm really excited to dive into today's lesson. Before I do, William Duckworth, good to see you. Sean and Figure, good morning. Nika, I'm glad to see you. I'm glad you're back. Thoughts coming from our real essence and thought coming from our ego. That is the human condition, and we can embrace our human condition. Man, that's so good. What source are your thoughts derived from? That's so good. I love that. Spencer Scott says some thoughts are just indifferent. You can't overanalyze everything. It is. I honestly, that's where that premise of do you believe that all thoughts are either life-giving or life-depleting? I think that's there could be a third category, and maybe there really are just a category of indifferent thoughts. For me, I've experienced that most of the time thoughts will feed and energize me, or they will take away. Or to be honest, it's musings, to your point, on nothing that, frankly, that's not who I want to be. I want to be intentional. I really do. Y'all, let's go ahead and dive into today's lesson. And again, I am going to be engaging with the chat here in a few minutes. My ask is that we are intentional with our words and intentional with the conversations we're starting. So Daryl and Tremen, I'm glad you all are here. I really would ask that we offer up things that are useful and beneficial to the group. So with that, thank you all so much for joining. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to give a quick review of some of the previous lessons, and then we'll jump into today's lesson. Lesson 121, forgiveness is the key to happiness. Lesson 122, forgiveness offers everything I want. Lesson 123, I thank my Father for his gifts to me. Lesson 124, let me remember I am one with God. Lesson 125, in quiet, I receive God's word today. Lesson 126, all that I give is given to myself. Lesson 127, there is no love but God's. Lesson 128, the world I see holds nothing that I want. Lesson 129, beyond this world, there is a world I want. Lesson 130, it is impossible to see two worlds. Lesson 131, no one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. Lesson 132, I loose the world from all I thought it was. Lesson 133, I will not value what is valueless. And today's lesson, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Let us review the meaning of forgive, for it is apt to be distorted and to be perceived as something that entails an unfair sacrifice of righteous wrath, a gift unjustified and undeserved, and a complete denial of truth. In such a view, forgiveness must be seen as mere eccentric folly, and this course appeared to wrest salvation on a whim. This twisted view of what forgiveness means is easily corrected when you can accept the fact that pardon is not asked for what is true. It must be limited to what is false. It is irrelevant to everything except illusions. Truth is God's creation, and to pardon that is meaningless. All truth belongs to him, reflects his laws, and radiates his love. Does this need pardon? How can you forgive the sinless and eternally benign? The major difficulty that you find in genuine forgiveness on your part is that you still believe you must forgive the truth and not illusions. You conceive of pardon as a vain attempt to look past what is there, to overlook the truth in an unfounded effort to deceive yourself by making an illusion true. This twisted viewpoint but reflects the hold that the idea of sin retains as yet upon your mind as you regard yourself. Because you think your sins are real, you look on pardon as deception. For it is impossible to think of sin as true and not believe forgiveness is a lie. Thus is forgiveness really but a sin, like all the rest. It says the truth is false and smiles on the corrupt as if they were as blameless as the grass, as white as snow. It is delusional in what it thinks it can accomplish. It would see as right the plainly wrong, the loathsome as the good. Pardon is no escape in such a view. It merely is a further sign that sin is unforgivable, at best to be concealed, denied, or called another name. For pardon is a treachery to truth. Guilt cannot be forgiven. If you sin, your guilt is everlasting. Those who are forgiven from the view their sins are real are pitifully mocked and condemned twice. First by themselves for what they think they did, and once again by those who pardon them. It is sin's unreality that makes forgiveness natural and wholly sane, a deep relief to those who offer it, a quiet blessing where it is received. It does not countenance illusions, but collects them lightly with a little laugh and gently lays them at the feet of truth. And there they disappear entirely. Forgiveness is the only thing that stands for truth in the illusions of the world. It sees their nothingness and looks straight through the thousand forms in which they appear. It looks on lies, but is not deceived. It does not heed the self-accusing shrieks of sinners mad with guilt. It looks on them with quiet eyes and merely says to them, "My brother, what you think is not the truth." The strength of pardon is its honesty. It is so uncorrupted that it sees illusions as illusions, not as truth. It is because of this that it becomes the undeceiver in the face of lies, the great restorer of the simple truth. By its ability to overlook what is not there, it opens up the path to truth, which has been blocked by dreams of guilt. Now are you free to follow in the way your true forgiveness opens up to you? For if one brother has received this gift of yours, the door is open to yourself. There is a very simple way to find the door to true forgiveness and perceive it wide open and welcome. When you feel that you are tempted to accuse someone of sin in any form, do not allow your mind to dwell on what you think he did, for that is self-deception. Instead, ask, would I accuse myself of doing this? Thus will you see alternatives for choice in terms that rendering choosing meaningful, and keep your mind as free of guilt and pain as God himself intended it to be. And it is in this truth. It is but lies that would condemn. In truth is innocence, the only thing there is. Forgiveness stands between illusions and the truth, between the world you see and that which lies beyond, between the hell of guilt and heaven's gate. Across this bridge, as powerful as love which laid its blessing on it, are all dreams of evil and hatred and attack brought silently to truth. They are not kept to swell and bluster and to terrify the foolish dreamer who believes in them. He has been gently wakened from his dream by understanding that what he thought he saw was never there, and now he cannot feel that all escape has been denied to him. He does not have to fight to save himself. He does not have to kill the dragons which he thought pursued him, nor need he erect the heavy walls of stone and iron doors he thought would make him safe. He can remove the ponderous and useless armor made to chain his mind to fear and misery. His step is light, and as he lifts his foot to stride ahead, a star is left behind, and to point the way for those who follow him. Forgiveness must be practiced, for the world cannot perceive its meaning, nor provide a guide to teach you its benefits. There is no thought in all the world that leads to any understanding of the laws it follows, nor the thought that it reflects. It is as alien to the world as your own reality, and yet it joins your mind with the reality in you. Today we practice true forgiveness, that the time of joining be no more delayed, for we would meet with our reality in freedom and in peace. Our practicing becomes the footsteps lighting up the way for all our brothers who will follow us in the reality we share. That this may be accomplished, let us give a quarter of an hour twice today and spend it with the guide who understands the meaning of forgiveness and was sent to us to teach it. Let us ask of him, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Then choose one brother as he will direct and catalog his sins as one by one they cross your mind. Be certain not to dwell on any of them, but realize that you are using his offenses, but to save the world from all the ideas of sin. Briefly consider all the evil things you thought of him, and each time ask yourself, would I condemn myself for this? Let him be freed from all the thoughts you had of sin in him, and now you are prepared for freedom. If you have been practicing thus far in willingness and honesty, you will begin to sense a lifting up, a lightening of weight across your chest, a deep and certain sigh of relief. The time remaining should be given to experiencing the escape from all the heavy chains you sought to lay upon your brother, but were laid upon yourself. Forgiveness should be practiced through the day, for there will still be many times when you forget its meaning and attack yourself. When this occurs, allow your mind to see through this illusion as you tell yourself, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Would I accuse myself of doing this? I will not lay this chain upon myself. In everything you do, remember this. No one is crucified alone, and yet no one can enter heaven by himself. Well, there's a lot here. As I said at the beginning, y'all, the goal not a goal, I would actually say guardrails for reading and listening to this. A guardrail is curiosity, to withhold judgment and allow for whatever resonates, to allow for that to come forth rather than diagnosing the entire thing and trying to even understand the entire thing. In fact, when I was reading this for the first time last year, one of the things that was most helpful was letting go of trying to understand all of it, because this is just, it still is such a different way of thinking. It's such a different approach to the world. Ultimately, over the last 3 or 4 days, we've been discussing that there really are two worlds. There's the world that, if you look horizontally to the right and to the left, the culture is defining our value system. They're defining what matters. They're defining modalities of what success is, how to love each other. What does that success mean? And then there's the other world, which is effectively the way God views the world. And that is entirely different. And through that view, there is access to peace always. There is access to love always. There is access to that internal sense of meaning from which we derive our worth and identity at all times, that can never be shaken by culture and by what's happening in the news. It's destabilizing in so many ways what's happening across the world. And if I take the view of God's, I actually am able to almost take this third party outside of time view, where when we're like head down looking to the right and to the left, our view is so narrow and we truly cannot see the truth of the reality of how God sees it. God sees so much bigger than we do. And so the goal is, a lot of people who are, I guess you could say, well, I don't want to go there. Y'all, we have a choice about how we're going to view other people and how we're going to view the world. Are we going to cast the first stone, so to say, and judge people harshly for their imperfections? Because if we do, what she's getting at here with this lesson is that is fundamentally how we are treating ourselves. So if we are casting stones and being judgmental and really, really, getting angry at people, the chain and noose that we put them in, we fundamentally have around ourselves as well. Because what that does in so many ways, there's many things that it does, but in so many, one of my favorite examples of this is that for whoever we have a noose around their neck, we're forever tethered to them as we try to move into the future. So we've always got like one arm back or many arms back that we actually can't even move into the future. We can't be free. And it keeps us fixated on the past. It keeps us fixated on something that actually we really can't control. And so it can make us feel crazy, the amount of anger and desire for vengeance that we can carry with us. And what that does, that I thought was so interesting, I want to go to this section where she talked about it, because I had never heard somebody say that. Okay, so when we actually are willing to allow for us to move into this other perspective, effectively the perspective of love, where we're now free from them, the effects of that freedom, she says, he does not have to fight to save himself. He does not have to kill the dragons which he thought pursued him, nor need he erect the heavy walls of stone and iron doors he thought would make him safe. He can remove the ponderous and useless armor made to chain his mind to fear and misery. Y'all, a lot of times the things that make us most angry about other people, actually we have kind of defined our identity by. Whether it's, oh, look at the injustice of my dad leaving. Look at the injustice of my partner leaving. Look at the injustice of this betrayal. Look at the injustice of X, Y, and Z. That now actually, even in a subconscious way, becomes part of who we are. So if we were, I think a lot of the reason why, and I've experienced this and I host knowing retreats and we'll do one-to-one work with folks. A lot of times people are afraid of letting go of that fear and that anger and that hatred because who they are has been so wrapped up in that story. So if I was to let go of that betrayal, well then who am I? What do I have to define me? Even loss. Man, my sister lost her husband and he was 26 years old and the most incredible human. And they had a 3-week-old baby girl. And she really had a choice. She had a choice. Am I going to be defined as the widow? And is my daughter going to be defined as the fatherless? And y'all, we have a choice in every single situation to put on armor, to build up walls, to pull out our sword, to go fight and slay dragons and pursue the world looking for the next attack. Well, that fundamentally means that our mind is chained to fear and misery. And y'all, when we're unwilling to let something change, one time I wrote in my journal, in my 20s, I wrote in my journal, I am destined for a life of misery, because I was in a relationship that I frankly did not think that I could get out of. I grew up in a very fundamentalist Christian home where divorce just wasn't an option. And I really loved this man. So I was like, how can I make this miraculous? How can I make it beautiful? And y'all, it's wild how much when we're preconditioned that this is going to be awful, we're going to find the awful. Yesterday or the day before, it concluded with this concept of you will find what you're looking for. We find and experience that which we're looking for. We're preconditioned to experience the world in a certain way. So if we've got our heavy walls of stone and iron doors that we think will make us safe, and we've got this ponderous and heavy armor on, well, gosh, we're going to start looking at other people as people from which we need to protect ourselves. Man, and then you've got these relationships that are happening behind clad iron gates. And you wonder why communication's hard. Well, it's because we are conditioning ourselves to protect ourselves. And Sarah, I just looked in the chat and I saw your comment. I don't think that you understand what I'm saying. So I want to say this again. My brother-in-law was killed at 26 by a drunk driver. And then we're looking, all right, so hold on one second. I'm going to go in here to YouTube because I'm just seeing some comments here that I actually think are disrespectful. And I'm just going to put you guys on timeout because this is a really, really important moment right now. Y'all, what it is that we're discussing right here, right now, is are we fundamentally predisposed to see people, experiences, circumstances as something from which we need to protect ourselves? Or are we conditioned to operate and be powered by a place of love? And a lot of times our past experiences are the very things dictating our belief systems. So if we have a belief that I need to buckle down, protect myself, put on armor, and that's coming from a place of real pain in the past, then the best thing that we can do, the most loving thing we can do for other people around us and ourselves is to heal that belief system, because that belief system is based in decades old data. but it is the very thing powering our decisions today. So I'm going to take just a quick moment and jump here in the chat. Generous Bigfoot, good morning. Thank you so much for your note. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. The Count of Saint Germain. It's interesting. I think that it's really, I think a lot of times I actually talk to a lot of folks who don't think about this they don't have these conversations often. So I think it's actually interesting if you think that you err on the side of, I think about these topics too much. Honestly, kudos to you, because I think that a lot of folks don't. So good on you. Thank you, Bigfoot. I really appreciate you. He says, some of us are really listening. Conditioning and self-regulating is a great topic. I'm all ears. Thank you. That was very timely. Thank you so much. Best life ever. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. Nika. Yeah, Nika. Wow. Nika Adrian says, not being able to get out of a relationship is also a false belief system. I completely agree. And I want to go back to that, because for 8 years I was in a relationship that was the one that I wrote I'm Destined for Misery about. And it was, I really was operating as a victim in that relationship. And frankly, here's the thing, is that I really was trying to make it beautiful and trying to make him love me. And at the same time, never once did I say, you know what? I want this kind of a relationship. This is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I think is respectful of me. And so, y'all, this is where it's really actually quite important to do this work of knowing who we are, because then, man, we're able to come forward and love others from this place of wholeness and health, rather than me. At the time, my health was predicated on him, and that was incredibly codependent. And to your point, that was a false belief system, is that my well-being needs to be a reflection of your well-being. So if he wasn't happy, I would do everything I possibly could to go and help him and kind of get him to that place of being happy. And I bore it as my responsibility. And here's the thing, if I ask why, and I do that work to kind of trace it, like following that yellow brick road, that behavior matched a belief system. And that belief system happened was born when I was 4 to 5 years old. And my mom and my grandma were like, you're going to be like Mother Teresa to our family. Well, that belief system really was the thing that powered the way that I interacted with everybody in my life. And so, okay, am I going to be able to engage with the truth of that narrative and examine it and say, okay, is that who I want to be? Is that the best way to love? Is that the best way to love? And so this concept, y'all, that we hear a lot in culture today is self-love. And I have always hated that concept. And as I've really come to do this work to know, okay, who was I created to be? Who am I? What is my unique personality? Because all of that was completely left unexamined in exchange for, let me be the person that everybody else wants me to be. Let me be Mother Teresa. Well, I'm not Mother Teresa. So I was trying to ultimately copy this saint rather than being who God created me to be in the first place. So I was exchanging identities. So as I started to walk in my own identity, I was trying to figure out, okay, well, culture is talking about self-love. And the way that they're talking about self-love sounds like an abdication for responsibility. It's, let me be content with who I am right now. Let me not try to get to that next level. Let me not try to grow. That's how that's at least from what I've experienced, a lot of what I've heard, rather than there are 7 different words for love in the Greek language. And one of those is flauta. And that means self-love, but it is the type of self-love that allows for us to then go forth and love others better, to be a better parent, to be a better boss, to be a better coworker. That is very different than the type of self-love that we hear espoused on influencer social media. So flauta, this Greek word for this kind of self-love, is just as important as the romantic kind of love. It's just as important as the brotherly love. It is a form of love that is ultimately so often, at least from the way that I was raised, very much so unexamined. And so as we seek to grow and kind of strengthen who am I and how can I love others so much better, y'all, there's this analogy of I was sitting in the back of the room at an event for Amazon that my team and I were putting on together with a partner. Lisa Nichols is at the front of the room, and she has this basin and a glass, and she has a pitcher in her hand, and she pours water into the glass, and she holds it up, and she says, "So many of you will give from a half full cup." And then she fills up the basin. Now the glass is full. She says, "Others of you will give from a full cup." And then she pours and pours and pours, and water spills over the glass into the basin below. And she holds up the glass and she says, "Y'all, this glass is yours. Everything in here is yours. The basin, the overflow is for everybody else." That concept very significantly changed the way that I approached myself and others, because now I'm giving from a 100% full tank, much more so 150% filled tank, because I've got overflow, I've got excess, rather than operating from this place of partial or even quarter depletion. I've only got a quarter left. And then we wonder why, communication is so hard. It's because we're operating from behind these ironclad gates. It's because we're operating from half full glasses, and we're not able to be filled up with this sense of knowing who we are, that identity that we were given, that we were fashioned and molded with, that makes us unique, but also allows for us, when we're operating from that place of really, truly who we were created to be in the first place, man, it's captivating. It's contagious. People need that. The world needs love. It really, really, really does. So let me come back and jump here in the chat. I just was grateful that you brought up the aspect about that as a false belief system, because I completely agree. And to that point, y'all, when we're willing to actually start speaking the truth, when we're willing to go in, do the work, come to know who we are, come to know what God says about us, then it's okay. Now I can actually hold a standard for how I'm treated. Now I can hold a standard for the way that I show up. We hold our own standard, and then it calls other people to hold us to a similar standard. If we hold ourselves to a standard that is not one of truth or is not one of love, that sets the bar for how others are going to engage with us. All right, let me go ahead and jump here in the chat. Joe Perkins, good morning. Matt Roberts, good morning. Underboss, good morning. Best life ever, hello. Wow, when I worked on mindset and got rid of a bad relationship, I raised 5 sons on my own. Now retired in my 30s and became successful, and now I'm 43 and living my best life, and everything is great. I expected. Oh, I love that. It's so true. Look at what can happen when you change your mindset, because our mindset is the very thing that produces so much of the world we experience. Brian Rice, good morning. 18 Ma Born, good morning. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're back. Generous Bigfoot. So is like lying to ourselves with this belief system. Our mask is preventing us from being loved. Oh man, I feel like you just nailed it in so many ways. Y'all, it's funny. What Bigfoot just said. This is so true. Our ironclad gate being up because we're on the defense, we're ready to be reactive because of the pain of the past. And we've conditioned our body to expect people to betray us because that's what happened before. And we're anticipating and projecting the past onto the present and the future. But what's so interesting is that it actually prevents the very thing from happening that we deeply, deeply want and crave. So we really that's what it I think that actually this is so interesting. I think that actually may very well be the very reason why we talk about manifesting. It's because we're so focused and putting so much energy on something not happening that it fundamentally prevents us from being able to receive the alternative. So, we've got these ironclad gates protecting him and protecting us from getting hurt, from us feeling betrayed again. Yet it fundamentally prevents that love from coming in. And then we're like, "See, I knew it. I knew you wouldn't love me." And we manifest it. And what's so funny, the generous Bigfoot, I'm glad you brought this up. My book actually at the end talks about this very thing. So it forces a reckoning with the truth in a very big way. Are we willing to speak the truth, to know the truth, to know the truth? I think that's huge. Are we willing to know the truth about ourselves and about what we believe and how that could be causing different experiences in our lives? It's so much easier, y'all, to put our head down and ignore how our belief systems are impacting our behavior and influencing the experiences of our lives. It's so much easier to point the finger. But when we point the finger, we've got four pointing back at us. So this lack of responsibility can very well be the thing that prevents connection and prevents community and prevents connection, community, yes, but trust, you know, fundamentally not trusting folks that would otherwise want to love us. Jumping back here in the chat. Pin, hello, I'm glad you're here. Yara, good to see you. Thank you so much for your note. Mr. No, good day from Australia. Hello, Como. The Gray Tone, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining. Dylan Morrow, good morning. I love this. Agape. There's so much noise today. He quiets it all, but his will and his voice. It brings so much gratitude and joy. I love that. All right, scrolling down. Adolph Wolf, good morning. Brian Rice. I'm just laughing at some of these things. So funny. Count of Saint Germain, good morning. All I want to know is why does it take me 2 hours and 4 cups of coffee to get my head together? Don Wang, good morning. Richard Grundle, good morning. IRAP, good morning. That's interesting. You know what's so funny? He says, why are you saying we? You should only speak for yourself because that's all you actually know. That's an interesting comment. You know, I say we because I say we most all the time. I have a business and that's actually kind of a rule that it's never one of us takes the credit. And anytime anything goes well, it's y'all look at what we did. Even if it was me doing it, it's look at what we did. We're never it's a collective we in so many ways. Yes, we have radical responsibility of choice and we are in so many ways the sum of our environment. And so who do we choose to spend our time with? Yes, I have the choice in who I spend time with, and they're massively influencing me. And my nature, it was massively impacted by my nurture. We talked yesterday about how Michelangelo, when he was asked, how did you sculpt David? He said, well, I removed who David was not. Our nature is enshrouded by these layers of nurture. And in our adulthood, it's enshrouded by the habits of our lives and the way that what music we listen to, who we talk to every day, our text messages, the algorithms which we consume. So yeah, it is we in so many ways. And I've never had anybody ask me that, so I'll think about that if that's something that maybe I need to adjust there. So thank you for sharing. Um, Scrolling down, IRAP. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and put you on timeout because you're not being very kind. Yuka, good morning. Jeff, good morning. Vladimir, good morning. We are talking about today's lesson, honestly, about forgiveness in so many ways. Best life ever. People misunderstand manifestation and is in every religion. And just part of the equation is mindset, its actions aligned, and other things too. It works if you believe it or not. It's interesting. It's a law of attraction in so many ways, right? Like what we put, it's what's there attracts something else. And so what we're putting out, we attract the results in so many ways. 18 Marborn, feel free to ask a question if you have one. I'm here. Reggie, good morning. Montauk, good morning. What's your favorite color? I don't know. I actually don't know. I go through multiple different colors. So what's yours? Cholo, good morning. Dylan, I love that. We equals the church, God's people, God's work. That's a good perspective. Ajax, I have never heard that. Thanks for joining. All right. I'm out of questions. Oh, thank you, Saint Germain. I'm glad you're here. You said 4 cups of coffee. I need to go have my first. So I'm very excited to go do that. Yara. What? I don't know what NPC is. Yeah, I don't know what NPC is, but I will Google that. I know there are a lot of different topics being offered. And actually to that point, Yada, I'm excited. I think next month we'll be launching the Knowing community, which I'm really excited for. And I think that will kind of streamline the chat. So, oh my, no, Count of Saint Germain, no. Non-playable character. Oh yeah. That's so interesting. I've never thought of it like that. 18 Mawborn. I am from Maryland. I was born and raised there, and then I lived in just outside of DC in Northern Virginia for a long time. Non-playable characters, a video game term when people that you walk up to have 4 lines of dialogue that just repeats forever. That's so funny. Well, you learn something new every day, don't you? Kevin, good morning. We don't talk like that here, but I'm so glad you're here. Yada, thank you. Wow, that's really encouraging. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you're here. I really appreciate, I really appreciate folks who are on here and on here for, I guess, the integrity of the content, because the content is the very thing that has made such a difference in my life. And it's meaningful to hear others who are experiencing that same encounter with it, All right, y'all, I am jumping off. Thank you so much for today. I am actually going to be back online. We have a guest this evening, which I'm really excited about. She and I had to reschedule a couple of times, so I'm trusting that her coming on today is perfect timing. We are chatting today at, let's see, what time? We are chatting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. So come and join us again tonight. Otherwise, we'll be back on tomorrow morning. I'm sorry that I'm jumping off. Kiwi, hello from New Zealand. Donnie, I'm sorry to leave y'all right now, but thank you so much for joining. I will be on later today, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. We'll be joined by a guest tonight. So come and join us. Come hang out with us. And then we'll be back online again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, as always, for lesson 135. All right, y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. I will see